Okay, so the first thing I would be going through is to learn the basics of public speaking. Then from there move to what becoming speakers and what I call better speakers also mean. So it means that if this is your first time learning about public speaking, this training or this bootcamp is also for you. And if you're already a speaker, so becoming a better speaker is also a section you should look forward to. Then the next thing would be delivering speeches that win the room. So this is tailored to competitive speeches, and then break activities, Q&A, and closing. So we've heard of the word public speaking many times. So basically, what is public speaking? I define public speaking as an art, right? Because it involves delivering ideas, stories, information to an audience with clarity, confidence, and purpose. It goes beyond just talking. It is about connecting with the people you are speaking with, inspiring them, persuading them through words, tone, and even your presence. So public speaking is about passing information in a way that connects with the people that you're speaking to. So think of it as a conversation with many people at once, right? Where your goal is not just to be heard, but also to be remembered. So like I said earlier, is speaking with clarity, with confidence, with purpose. Now, let's just dive into how to communicate, right? Like how to speak with purpose. The first thing is clarity. Clarity is very, very important. Before now, you might have heard of the word clarity as speaking in a way that is clear. So you can see clarity in different angles. So clarity means when your language is simple and relatable. I use the word relatable because audience varies at many times. So for example, you are speaking to market women, right? It means that you have to speak in a language that they understand. You are speaking to lawmakers, you need to speak in a language that they can relate to. This is especially important when you start getting tasks that are like or scenario speeches, when you have to assume a particular scenario. As a public speaker, you can be called on to just like a closing remark for your friend's wedding. So you want to assume a role of someone that is passionate in that instance. So it means that you need to be able to speak in a language that those that are within that event can understand. So your audience can be just a single audience, and sometimes they are mixed. So you want to ensure that your language is relatable and you want to keep it simple. So it means that you want to avoid jargon, difficult terms. Those things, unless it is extremely necessary. Like let's say you are speaking to professionals that you just want them to know that you understand like the technicalities of some things that you are talking about. But if it is not necessary, avoid jargons and just keep them away. Simplicity is like the best thing. The next thing is structure. So structure in every speech starts from beginning to middle and to the end. So it means that you need a beginning to capture attention. The first few words when you are leading a public a speech, whether it's up to a large audience or to just a small group of people, you want to ensure that the way you start your speech is one that everyone wants to listen to you. So you had started this training with, "Hi everyone, I'm Halimat." I'm starting with a tone that is not enthusiastic, so it might like even just bore you out already. You're like, "Oh, what's she going to say next?" Or you just want to like put off your screen. But it means that you need to ensure that the beginning of your speech at every time captures attention, and the middle is to build up your argument, your story, or whatever it is, and the end is to drive the message home. So you don't want to leave your audience hanging. You want to ensure that you've concluded properly and rounded up your speech in a way that they get the message. So the next thing on how to communicate is intentionality. No matter the moment, no matter who you are speaking to, you should always consider your audience, and that's the best way to even win speeches, whether it is competitive or you find yourself in a room where you have to speak, right? Ask yourself, what do I want my audience to think from this speech? What do I want them to feel? What do I want them to do after I speak? Do I want them to just applaud? Do I want them to take action from my speech? All of these things are important when you are giving normal speeches, and for competitive speeches you'll be able to relate it to when you are giving speech like business speech, right? So you don't just want to for example talk to your investor and just like blab without knowing what you want them to do next. Do you want them to connect with you on social media? Do you want them to invest in your business? When we get to winning speeches in a room, you would understand this part better, or when we are going into briefing specifically. For the purpose of this boot camp, right, intentionality means that you need to always think of your audience. And when you think of your audience, delivering a speech becomes easier. So the last thing on how to communicate is listen while you speak. Read body language. Watch how people nod. Watch their expressions. All of those things will tell you if your audience is following you. So you're speaking in a room and everyone on the front row is already drowsy. It might be a need to tell you something that, oh, maybe I need to stop here and just give a slight break activity. When you watch speakers, sometimes you would see them do those kinds of things in gatherings, right? They would be speaking and all of a sudden they'll just say, oh, can everyone rise and let's just clap for LDO 2025? It's most likely because they are reading the body languages of their audience. You can relate this back to competitive speech when, for example, you are presenting your speech and you can already, of course, judges try to like keep their expressions neutral, but no matter what, to an extent, if you read body languages very well, you will know when you're already messing up. You will know, oh, my speech, this speech is not going the way it's supposed to go. So it means that you easily, or you would either find a way to connect with them, or you're able to like switch your speech to a tone where you might or would be able to do better. So reading body language is also very, very important. In summary, what I've just said in this slide is like, let me just give this tip. You have to, like, for example, imagine you're explaining an idea to a curious 10-year-old. That's the best way to learn how to communicate easily. After you've had that ambiguous idea in your head, just think of it this way. Oh, you're explaining an idea to a curious 10-year-old. If they can get what you're explaining, then the audience you are talking to would most likely get it. How do you communicate effectively then? You cannot learn what public speaking is if you just know how to communicate, but you don't know how to do it effectively. So the major ways to learn how to communicate is verbal techniques and non-verbal techniques. We also have emotional connection, presence, authority, and authenticity. So verbal techniques are basically your pace. Don't rush through your speech. It's strategic. Pause, add weight when you want something to hit home. This would especially be important when you are giving pitches. In fact, in almost all types of pitch, when you are giving business pitch and you've just said, for example, oh, LDO 2025 is a competition that brings across speakers from Africa. In 2023, I was privileged to attend LDO as a participant, and from my experience, it's built my ability as a speaker. I learned and connected with people that I would not ordinarily meet on different platforms, and from there, I've been able to attend more competitions and become better. I'm calling on you to invest in LDO because at every point or everything you want your audience to connect to, you are being strategic with it. So that's the essence of pacing. Learning when to talk a bit faster, learning when to pause, learning when to, just slow down completely. Your tone is also very important now. So you vary your pitch to avoid sounding flat all the time. You don't just want to raise your voice all through your speech from the beginning to the end. You don't just want to talk on, just flatly, low tone all through the end. And also learn how to use emphasis. So you stress keywords to highlight importance. So those three are just the major verbal techniques. So what are the non-verbal techniques that are important when you want to communicate effectively? Eye contact. Many speakers, as a result of nervousness, lose their audience from the beginning when speaking because they fail to maintain eye contact with their audience. So now, in this scenario, your audience might most likely be your judges, right? You want to ensure that you are looking into their eyes because you want your message to sound personal and believable. You want them to after your speech think, oh, was that real? What did that really happen to you? And this is not just for competitive speeches alone. When you are speaking to a group of people, you want them to say that story that she just told, did it really existed? So eye contact is a very, very powerful non-verbal tool that you want to use. Other ones are gestures. Even if this is like a virtual speech, and yeah, my video should be turned on, but because of network disruption and I'm already sharing screen, I don't want to turn it on to avoid like cutting off, right? So you could imagine my gesture. You can imagine that I'm raising my hand. You can imagine that I'm bringing my hand down. Gestures are also powerful tools that you can use to illustrate points. You can use it to describe, and that's basically with the use of your hands. I know some people think that it's a sign of not being very confident, but in the real sense, it also helps your audience to picture or follow along with what you are doing. Of course, you don't want to be throwing your hands in the air or anyhow, but you want to use your hands in a way to illustrate points. While the last one under that is posture. So you want to, what posture basically signal is confidence, right? You want to ensure that you are not speaking and you are rubbing your hands together. You're not speaking to investors and you're having your hands in your pocket. You are giving a business speech and your hands are in your pockets, and then you're standing arms akimbo, heads bent, looking at your judges, looking at us and saying, good afternoon, I'm here to pitch Tech the Dev. Tech the Dev is about, it's already like just puts your audience up because it's signaling that you don't even believe in what you are delivering. So your posture also matters. You want to stand tall, you want to appear confident. So the next thing is emotional connections, right? This is very important when every speaker before you had given speech that sounds almost similar, and you know within yourself that what you had prepared is almost similar. So you want to use this tool to win. And when I mean to win, you want to like make sure that your speech is remembered even after you leave the stage. So how do you use emotional connections? So you use stories, analogies, or humor to make your point stick, depending on which one you feel you're capable of. If it's stories, if it's analogies, if it's humor, you speak to their hearts, you speak as well as like to their minds also. So these are ways that you can use to these are ways that you can communicate effectively. The last one under communicating effectively is owning the stage. From the moment you step on a stage, people need to want to listen to you. So how do you do that? You can start your speech confidently even before you speak by reading deeply. Center yourself and like, even if it's just 10 seconds, rehearse your speech. Go to the stage with energy. Don't go with hesitation. You're already coming forward and you're dragging your feet. Go with energy. Don't go with like when you get on the stage, let people is is this what's this person coming to say? Like, oh, is this a battle? No, of course, it might look like you are drawing a lot of attention to yourself, but in the real sense, it's also like drives a positive message to those that want to listen to you. So, in summary, what I've said in this part of communicating effectively is that your message is important, the way you deliver it is important, and the way you connect with your audience. Those three things are important for effective communication. But lastly, just know that your audience don't hate you. They want you to succeed. See, those listening to you are not your enemies. They are actually rooting for you. Even if you don't believe it, they're not your enemies. They're sitting there because either they don't have a choice, they have to listen to you. So it's now your responsibility to own the stage and give them value for sitting or listening to you. And before I continue, can Faye confirm that I am still audible?
Yes, you are.
All right, thank you. So now I'll be moving to next session, which is becoming a better public speaker. So the first part I'll be taking you through is I'll be assuming that you are speaking, you are trying to become a public speaker. So removing the word better now. So I'll just assume that this is the first time you are listening to a public speaking boot camp and you want to be a public speaker. So I'll take you through that briefly, then we'll move into becoming better for people who are already public speakers as well. We've talked about communicating effectively and all of those things. But the first or the most important thing, even if I scream it from now till a time when you have the opportunity to step on a stage and I tell you that, oh, work with confidence. Nobody is hating on you. You own the stage. The most important thing is your mindset, right? The mindset of a public speaker. Becoming a public speaker does not mean that you have to be born charismatic or naturally bold. Anyone that knows me before now, or anyone that knows me very well would know that I am naturally, most people say I'm a shy person, but I've seen people go as far as saying that, oh, Halimat is timid, right? But when I step on the stage, it's different. It's as if the stage is mine, or the stage was built for me. And that's because of my mindset. When I'm being on a stage, I try to put all of those behind me. Oh, you are shy, or you don't like talking to a lot of people, or you're not an extrovert. All of those things don't matter, right? You don't have to be naturally bold. You can learn it. And learning it starts from believing that you can speak. Start from believing that public speech is not difficult. So it's first of all your mindset. And the truth is, many public speakers are made, even the ones that you admire. So what sets them apart from every other person is preparation, discipline, and the courage to keep showing up. So even if my first round, even if my first speech, even if I mess up, I would go for the next one and I would win it, right? So your mindset is very, very important. And one of the biggest shifts you need to make with your mindset is to approach speaking with service, right? When you approach speaking with fear, something like, oh, what if I forget my lines? Or what if people laugh at me? What if I am not good enough? Or what if I start debating instead of delivering a public speech? The problem with that kind of mindset is that it is self-centered. You are focusing on yourself instead of focusing on those you want to speak to, instead of focusing on the audience. When you shift your mindset to service and you tell yourself things like, oh, I'm not here to prove myself, or I'm here to share value with my audience. It's a competitive round, but I enjoy public speaking genuinely. I really want to talk about the story of how I made 30 million naira last year and nobody knew. I really want to, I really just want to tell people about the girl child. I really want to tell people about the story of how I lost my ex. You just want to share your story. You want to share value with your audience. When you have that kind of mindset, when you shift it away from fear to service, then the rest of your speech becomes better. The next thing is building the skill. Building the skill is not as difficult as you imagine it to be. So I'll just like give practical tips and breakdown of easy ways to build the skills. The first thing is you have to be deliberate, right? Just like you see athletes when they train, a musician practice and all of those things. As a speaker, you also need to prepare yourself consistently. So the first thing is don't practice in your head. That's like a very, very big mistake or flaw that new speakers make. Of course, I made that mistake when I was starting out too. And unfortunately for me, I did not just make the mistake within the competitive space. I also made the mistake career-wise. So I followed a friend to a pitch competition. She called me early in the morning and she told me, "Oh, you might as well be able to pitch your own business too. So just come along. I would try to like speak to the organizers, we'll find a slot and all of those things." Before that, I didn't know anything about LDO. I was not like really into public speaking. So when she was like, "Halimat, can you do it?" I'm like, it's not just to, I have customers, I speak to customers. It's not just to also talk to those people. She's like, there will be crowd though. And I'm like, how bad can it be? It's not just to speak to people. When it was her turn, she went on stage. I saw her did that thing. I was applauding. There were 3 people after her, just before me. And I'm like, let me just practice what I'll say in my head. So I'll just introduce myself and I'll pitch, right? There were no steps to what I would do next. And when I climbed on the stage, after introducing myself, the speaker stopped, the microphone stopped working. And that's the first problem. When you practice in your head, there is a high chance that little distractions can mess up your speech. So that broke my momentum, and I was already like, hey, what's next? What's next? Until someone told me, oh, the next person, can you hold on? Let's welcome dignitaries. Sheikh Tinubu is in the building here, and I'm like, hey. So I just started like sweating, and I already know that there was no way, nobody, even I would not invest in myself at that point in time. So public speaking is even beyond like competitive, right? It's also important in your daily life. If that kind of scenario happens again, I know now that I would handle it better. And one of those ways I would handle it better is because I stopped practicing in my head. It's important that you practice out loud. You don't have to scream, you don't have to shout. But even if it's just 30 seconds that you have before you start your speech, practice it out loud, maybe away from your head and away from your mind, so picturing it in front of you. So you want to practice out loud, you want to rehearse aloud, and if you have the opportunity, record yourself. I still don't like listening back to my own voice, but I'm doing better with that now. So this is an advice I'm also working on. So play it back, listen to your own voice, listen to your expressions, listen to your gestures, so that you know where to improve the next time you have the opportunities to speak. You cannot just like improve in isolation. So you also need to get feedback from trusted friends. You go and get feedback from your haters, you might cry. So get feedback from your trusted friends, people who would criticize you truthfully and not just try to bring you down. So also get feedback from your mentors, your fellow speakers who can tell you the truth about what you are doing well and what needs to work. You also want to watch other people speak. I'm going to do this today. I opened my YouTube yesterday night and I searched public speaking boot camps. And like I just like watched other videos, even if it's not necessarily streamlined down to competitive speech. I watch other speakers. I saw how they, just started their speech or their sessions or introduced themselves, and I'm like, okay, I can pick something from this. So you want to watch other people live, online, or even at events. You notice how they start their speech, how they pause, how they connect with their audience. So the next thing is overcoming fear. I know I've mentioned fear when I was talking about service, but I want to like reiterate it again as one of the um myths, right? So almost everyone feels nervous, right? Even if you've been speaking for 1,000 years, there are days when you still feel nervous before speaking. The difference is how you manage it. So fear is a sign that you actually care about what you want to do. So instead of trying to eliminate it, you might want to try to reframe it as energy that you can channel. Before you step onto the stage, breathe. Use positive self-talk like I am ready and prepared, instead of saying, I go mess up this public speech. Visualize success in your head. Imagine people clapping for you, even if they don't after you speak, or even if they do, just imagine it and speak in front of smaller groups. You might want to start trying it from today. If you know you are coming for LDO, you might want to start speaking up amongst your friends. If you are the type that you don't contribute at all before, or even if your roommate is saying 1,000 words, all you just contribute is okay, great, nice. You might want to increase it to, oh, nice, that is beautiful. Just learn and keep growing. So this part is the one for speakers that just want to become better, right? The journey. So what are those things that you want to do better after you overcome everything I said earlier? You overcome fear, you can now manage your situations, you can speak boldly, you can connect with your audience. How do you learn your own style? Because sometimes, even in competitive speeches, when you are giving different tasks for different rounds, you suddenly realize that, oh, I'm not just good with business speeches. Oh, I'm not just good with scenario speeches. Oh, I'm not just good with investigative speeches. The reason why it's hard to find a balance is because you've not recognized your own voice. So what are the easiest way to finding your voice? The first thing is you need to discover your own style. Are you a storyteller? Are you a motivator? Are you a humorist? Are you a teacher? When you discover your own style, and the easiest way to discover your style is, like I said earlier, when you record yourself, you will notice a pattern in your speeches. Every time I speak, I try to make people laugh. Definitely, that's it. That's your style. You are a humorist. So every time I speak, I try to talk about one of my past and how I overcome it, and how I overcame it. Oh, that's it. You are a motivator. So when you record yourself and when you get feedback, you will notice a pattern, and you are able to lean into that. You're able to lean into your own strength, right? You're able to lean into it and know how to always channel it, or know how to always use it to develop technique. And when I'm talking about developing technique, it means that you're able to use it to learn how to structure your speech. It also includes how you also use it to deliver your speech effectively. So the next thing is now learning how to refine and polish. You need to start paying attention to details, your timing. How do you spend your time when you're speaking? If you learn into your strengths and you realize that you're a storyteller, are you the type that will just tell story all through and you find it difficult to tie it back into your speech? So you want to notice all of those things, and you want to learn how to use your time better. You want to also know your word choices. Are you the type that when you are speaking, you've said the F word like 15 times when you are trying to give a speech on anger, when you're trying to give a speech on a nation that is breaking down, you're already saying, oh, this, you're already using a lot of F words, or you're already using words that are coming repetitively. So you want to try to, learn your word choices, learn how you transition between speeches and how to make your delivery smoother. It's also something that many even experienced speaker keep working on, and that's why I called it a journey, right? So it means that you keep getting better at it. And the last one is mastery. So at this point, you are not just speaking anymore. You are also like leading with your speech. You are inspiring people. You are persuading or even pushing people to make actions, or to take actions rather. So you've learned how to refine and polish. You're working on it continually. You've learned your own style through self-evaluation, through feedback. You now know your own style. You found your voice, and you want to always within your speech either inspire people to also want to become public speakers, or you just want them to do something after your speech. So this journey, you can just think of it like you're climbing a ladder, and each step, finding your voice builds on developing your technique, builds on refining and polish, builds on mastery. So you cannot jump one for the other. So now we are moving on to delivering speeches that win the room. Faye, please, can you confirm that I'm audible before I continue to this last part?
Yes, you're audible.
All right, thank you. Okay, so how do you win the room? The first thing is to try as much. I use the word try because sometimes when you are in a competitive room where everyone is bold, everyone knows their voice, everyone knows their style, and everyone is calling people to action, that's the judges to action, and you want to win the room. So these are ways that you can do it. So the first one is to deliver something unique. Your audience, that's your judge in this case, are listening to countless speeches, right? So what makes them sit up for your own speech? Faye that is moderating this this session right now. I remember a public speaking spa, and Faye was speaking before me. She was talking about I think it's a story about grief or something. And while Faye was speaking, I was like, even if I'm a judge and I just listen to this speech, there is no way I would want to listen to what I have to say. Because what I prepared before our speech was, I just prepared it like, I can just talk about this and it's fine. But like while listening to our speech, I'm like, no, this momentum, if someone gives this kind of speech and I come to do this thing next, there is no way I will not be angry, even if nobody will penalize me. But there is no way I would not be angry, because she took the speech in a way that was very, very unique. You would not expect someone to be talking about money, because I think it was a pictorial speech. So it was a picture of money, coins dropping out of a bag with something rope hung around someone, and everybody was going in a way along, when the youth is craving, looking for money, we miss our ways, we do a lot of legal stuff. But she just started talking about grief, and then she was talking about a story of a woman or something. I'm like, So that's like the first thing. You want to be unique. You want to ensure that what you are delivering to your audience is something that they are not expecting, even if the lesson you want to drive home is the same thing. But one other thing you might also want to know is that uniqueness does not always mean creating something completely new. It might mean finding a way to make your delivery stand out. And what are ways that you can easily draw uniqueness from? So these are things I've noted from the beginning of this year, from different speeches I've been listening to. So the first thing is your personal lens. Many people do this thing very, very well. Many great speakers do it. They always connect a topic to their own lives. So you want to connect the topic to your own life. You're talking about climate change. You want to connect it to maybe a flood that happened in your own area. That's one way to give to deliver a unique speech. The first thing is an unusual angle. You want to say what other people are not saying, just like what he did. And the last thing is a cultural or humorous twist. I know many speakers that do this. I think Lydia does this very well. I've also listened to Victor Mashaka. It's a LinkedIn public speaker. He also does this very well. So you want to use proverbs. Mota also do this. You want to use humor. You want to use local sayings. Those are ways to deliver something unique. You want to use metaphors, analogies. We are turning abstract ideas into relatable pictures. So those are ways to deliver something unique. So how do you know you've delivered something unique? By asking yourself, like, for example, if 10 people were to give the same speech, what would make my own speech the one they will talk about later? So the next way to win the room is sharing personal stories. This is also tied back to delivering something unique, but I brought this out as a point on its own. So a story is the heartbeat of most winning speeches. People may forget facts, but they will never forget a story that touched them. I'm sure you've heard this many times. So personal stories make you human, relatable, and memorable. Stories have three major parts, according to how I grouped them. So you might have more parts or different parts depending on who's talking about this. But to what I've noticed or what I've gathered, stories have three major parts. And the first one is the setup. So you want to introduce your story. Second one is, I called it conflict, because it's usually a twist. So you want to talk about the struggle, the challenge, the turning points, and you want to tie it back into your speech. And the last one is the resolution. You want to share the outcome or the lesson from the story. You need to start learning how to use stories to win your room, right? Because it transforms your speech from just information to an experience. The third one is vulnerability. Be vulnerable. I know you're already thinking, if I'm vulnerable, I'm a hard girl or I'm a hard guy, then I've casted. No. I believe that vulnerability makes you unlock a form of creativity that most people don't get to when they are delivering speeches, especially competitive speeches, right? Many speakers avoid vulnerability because they think that it shows weakness, But vulnerability is a superpower in public speaking. It just makes your audience trust you, or it makes you like authentic, and it allows people to connect with you on a deeper level. I'll give like a very, very simple way for you to use vulnerability to unlock your creativity. So you're thinking about a topic and something silly comes to your head and you're like, what if this idea sounds silly? That's a creative block staring at you. The reason why it's coming back at you that way is because you're avoiding something. Of course, you don't want to spill your life tea so that, we listen, we don't judge. But after you speak, we'll judge you. But at the same time, you also want to win, right? But you don't want to spill your own tea. What if you allow that idea expand and form in your head, and then write out the major things that sounds most interesting from that idea down on a sheet of paper or anywhere you want to write it? Then think of it like cleaning a data. So you are now cleaning the important or the sensitive details. Before you know it, that's a story staring at you that you can either present in a humorous form or you just want to present it in a motivational form. So vulnerability allows you to touch your own creative blocks and break through them. So if as a public speaker, you've always struggled through creativity, you might want to start being vulnerable. So the next one is be creative. And I've mentioned creativity while talking about vulnerability. So what does creativity do? It keeps your audience engaged and makes your speech unforgettable. So creativity is not about being dramatic. Like, you want to start a speech, but you're already pouring water on all the judges' head. No. So creativity is about creating ways to make your message come alive. And this is where props come in. You'll see some speakers going on stage and they are bringing out flowers or they are bringing out chairs, but you don't want your props to as well be distracting or take the messages away you want them to bring your message alive. So creativity is using tools around you, either physical tools or using, suspense, metaphor, rhetorical questions. All of the tools I've mentioned earlier, they are tools for creativity, humor. Every tool that you use to bring your story alive, you are playing with rhythm, you are playing with repetition. It's something that I started doing at the beginning of this year, and I was like, I like as I'm doing, and nobody is noticing it. But I think at VOA, someone pointed it and like, someone came to my idea and I was like, wait, Halima, you'll be using porn these days. I'm like, yeah, I just realized that when I'm speaking, most people, like including my mom, will tell me that you're using the word PPP, like petty pot. You like it, and I'm like, hey, am I doing that? So I started like incorporating that into my speech just to create my own, stance. So it's also a form of creativity, and you can only be able to unlock that when you listen to feedbacks directly or indirectly. So now I'll be pausing here for break activity and drills, and I'll just be doing that for 5 minutes because we started later than 6 o'clock. I plan on doing this for like 10 minutes more. So I'll just mention the first task, and if you want to try it out, you raise your hand and unmute. Okay, so the first thing is you have to come up with one unique line. It can be a metaphor, it can be a personal lens, it can be a cultural twist with the word friendship. Okay, so many people have left the course. So, and because we're having the judges training next, so I will just skip this bootcamp drills. In the absence of no question, I'll be ending the training here, but I'll be leaving you with a word that every great speaker started small. So you just have to keep practicing and keep showing up. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Alima. That was a very beautiful session. So we have our next facilitator on, Joan. So not a lot of people joined, so we are just going to record it and just like upload it on YouTube. And if it's like if requirements for the training is something where you can like refer people to the YouTube page and they can just watch it. Yeah. Welcome, Joan.
Hi, Faye. Hi, everyone. Um, so I was going to start with a bit of an exercise, but since this is recorded, you can just, well, you guys have missed it. That's just it. I'm so sorry you've missed it. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Joan Charity Oku, and I am one of 3 CAs for public speaking at LDO 2025. And if you haven't registered, this is your sign to register. If you haven't started packing, this is your sign to start getting started with packing because LDO is coming this weekend and you should be there. So today we're going to be doing I'm sorry, I'm going to mute for a second. It seems some people are trying to join. Faye, would you mind sending the link to the Speaksphere group again?
I just did.
All right, thank you so much. All right, good. So let's get right into it. I'm sure that a lot of you have already heard what it takes to be an amazing speaker. But today I'm going to be talking about what it takes to be an amazing judge, not just at this tournament, but at tournaments to come. And by the end of the day, I hope that you'll be glad that you listened to this session. So The first thing I want to say is that judges are the backbone of any competition. Without sharp, fair judges, even the best speeches will fall flat because there's no one there judging your speeches. And you get situations where you're speaking and perhaps someone um who is a novice judge isn't able to pick out the particular point in your speech that should have been picked out. That's where great judges come in, and that's why judges training is so important. I'll start with a brief um, depiction of what my own experience with judging, where I realized that we need more judges. Funny enough, it was at my very first ever public speaking tournament in 2023, ANUDC. And I had just finished giving a speech where I decided to creatively paint a picture as of the lady Lugard being Nigerian and not English as she actually is. And I did it to spark a bit of creativity. And after the speech, I remember having some conversations with the judges when I went back for feedback and finding out that there were some judges there who felt that because I wasn't being factually accurate, that I should have points deducted of what I had said. And it took an experienced judge there to explain that the entire point of the speech that I was given was not necessarily about being factually correct. It was about being creative, about thinking outside the box and bringing things from another perspective. Why I'm telling you this is not necessarily to disparage the judges who had judged me like that, but to show that there are different ways of looking at speeches. There are speeches where you have to be factually correct, definitely. In original oratory and some other declamation, for instance, you have to be factually correct. But there are speeches where the facts just don't matter. It's more about the message that you're trying to pass across, right? Judging public speaking means you have to be able to listen closely, analyze fairly, listen without bias, and be able to give constructive feedback. So I'm going to walk through the basic criteria and scoring breakdown on what's expected from each and every one who is going to be judging at this tournament or at future tournaments. In the meantime, to those of you that are just joining, welcome, and make sure that you send a message, text in the comment space where you're listening to this from, whether it's from your bed or from your toilet. So back to it, right? I think that the most important criteria everybody is always after is content, and that's because without content there is really nothing else that you're coming to give, which is why content has one of the highest marks in the judging criteria. Content contains a lot of things. It contains your clarity, it contains organization, message strength, relevance, structure, your introduction, your body, and your conclusion. In most tournaments, if you're following a 100-point rubric, you would have content having 30 points or 30 marks. So what are the things that you look for in content? Questions you ask yourself when you can't just pinpoint it to clarity, organization, and all of that. There are 5 major things I try to look at. And this helps me to judge holistically because I look at the content as a whole and not necessarily pinpointing specific parts of the content where maybe the person made grammatical errors or minor mistakes, slips of tongue, and all of that stuff. We all have a bad day or an off day when it comes to public speaking every now and then. And I don't think that a couple of faux pas with your language should count all that much. Hi, Elijah. I'm glad to see you're listening in from your room. So yeah, the first thing any judge should ask themselves when it comes to content is the message clear? The main message that this speaker is trying to pass, was it very clear? Did I understand it? Did I struggle to get where they were going to? And this is why I'm going to tie a little bit of time management into this for a second, but bear with me. This is why when I'm listening to a speech and the speech is supposed to last 3 minutes long, and by 2 minutes 30 seconds I'm still wondering where this person is going, that content is not clear. The message of that speech is not clear, because you cannot be getting to your major point in the last 30 seconds of your speech. It doesn't work that way. I generally try to advise speakers, if you're going to give a story and then pass your message across, give your story in the first 1 minute and 30 seconds. Use the next 1 minute to get to your point. The 30 seconds afterwards is for your rounding up or conclusion. Because by the time that the judges are still struggling to get to your point, the speaker might end up crossing over their time band. And by the time that they've gotten to their point, it's like too little, too late. So the main message has to be very clear. It has to be clear from the middle of the speech. They can make their message clear at the beginning, don't get me wrong, but I'm saying that in the worst case scenario, they should have gotten to their points before 2 minutes, 30 seconds. The next thing is, does the speech have a logical flow? Are there logical inconsistencies in their story? Are they talking about being in a boat and somehow being able to fly? Does it make sense? Is there any form of logical flow in their speech? Obviously, this doesn't apply if they're talking about some form of fantasy, or what do they call them? I'm struggling to remember the genre that has to do with all this stuff. Anyone who is able to remind me, please do so in the comments. Thanks. The next thing is for cases like advocacy pitches or speeches that have to have some form of backing, some evidence behind it. The points you're making, are they being supported with these facts? If you're giving a business pitch, if the speaker is giving a business pitch, are they supporting their analysis, their market analysis, with statistics that make sense? You can't tell me that I'm investing in a business of that would cost roughly 30 million, and then within the first year I'm making 90 million back. That doesn't make any sense. That the evidence is lacking. It doesn't make sense. Or you're talking about you're giving an advocacy speech and you're advocating for mental health, and you're like, oh, 90% of Black women suffer from mental health issues. Let your evidence be factually correct. This is where factually correct comes into play. Try as much as possible they should make sure that they're hitting that particular point. So these are the things you should look out for. And then, is their introduction or their hook catchy, and is their conclusion satisfying? So it's expected that the speaker is able to grab your attention right off the bat. That ties in a little bit, just a bit, into creativity. How they start their speech matters just as well as how they end their speech. And the reason conclusion matters a lot in content and time management is because if a speaker goes over their time limit, let's say the speech is 3 minutes and there's a 15 seconds grace period, and by 3 minutes 15 seconds they haven't wrapped up their speech, that speaker has not given a conclusion to their speech, because it's expected that at 3 minutes 15 seconds you're dropping your pen, you're no longer focusing, and you're just waiting for them to be done. You're clapping them off the stage. So, and then finally, rambling. Are they rambling in their speech? Are they saying a whole lot of nothing just to fill up space? And this is something speakers have issues with quite a number of times. They would have given a really great speech, but because their time says 2:30 or 2:45, they're like, oh, I must get to 3 minutes. And so they start to just add in all these fillers. That counts as rambling, and it actually deducts points for content, because at that point in time, you're no longer making a lot of sense. You're just going round and round and over the same point over and over again. And also, are they missing key points? If the end point of their story has an end that doesn't make a lot of sense considering what you've listened to from the beginning down till the end, it will count against them in content. So this ties very closely to them having a logical flow in their speech. And that's about it for content. At this point, if anyone has any questions, please put them in the text space and let us know. Mercury, nice to see it. You're typing from Mercury. Let us know how the air is over there. And for those of you that do not have a bed, I don't know why you're telling me you're typing from your mat, unless you are in the village. So let's see. Creativity is the next thing. I'm going to just throw this out there. I think I say it so many times that most of the training sessions I've listened into, I've heard Joan said, and I'm going to say it again. Creativity is not dramatization, but dramatization can be a form of creativity when used right, when used appropriately, and when used in the correct measure. There is such a thing as over dramatization, and there is such a thing as under dramatization. And being in the public speaking space, everyone can say that they've seen these at one point or another. So let's talk about what creativity looks like. The things contained in creativity are originality, unique ideas, use of language, engaging storytelling, emotional or intellectual impact. Under this, we'll talk a bit about what I like to call, actually, no, I like to call it, actually what it is, the third principle. So the third principle states that the very first idea that you have is for a speech or something, anything in general, isn't your best. The first two ideas are never your best. Originality, no, not originality, uniqueness comes from the third thought, the third idea. That's why it's called the third principle. So when you start being creative, it's from your third idea. Chances are the first idea you have for a speech, a couple of other people are thinking about that thing, or it's something that your judges, we, the judges, would be expecting, right? The second idea, same thing, maybe less people are thinking it, but, and then finally, when you get to your third idea, that's where thinking outside the box comes. So as a judge, how do you take a look at this without being biased? I know that there are a lot of storylines out there that are really cliche, grace to grass, grass to grace, and the whole shebang. But we're looking for originality. And because of that, we're looking for that unique perspective that this speaker brings to this speech that makes us see things in a different light. If it's a topic about, and the topic says table, right? There are so many ways you could go. You could go to the original, table. There's table of content. So many other ways you could go. What fresh ideas are they bringing into that speech? That's where originality and unique ideas come in. So you're asking yourself things like, how original is this topic or approach or perspective? And then you ask yourself, are there metaphors or stories or humor that they're using to enhance the speech? Are these, if it's humor, are they falling flat or are they actually hitting? Are the props that they would use, are they actually appealing to their speech? Do they help their speech, or are they just there for show? For instance, it's like giving a speech and you're giving a speech about, let me see, giving a speech about women rights, right? And you come in onto the stage with a bag and you finish giving your speech and you walk off the stage, and when you're ranked, you're maybe not ranking the best, and you come and ask the judges why, and they tell you, oh, you didn't really have a lot of creativity. And the next line is, oh, but I used a bag in the speech. but we didn't see that bag in use. What was the point of the bag? Why was the bag on the stage? Otherwise, it's not a prop. It's just a part of you. It's just an extension of you, the person, not the speech. So we then ask, does the speaker make the topic memorable? Did you give a speech that would stay in our minds for a pretty long time? Something that will make us think, even during deliberations, we want to be able to be like, oh, this particular speech was about this, and this person said this, and you're able to remember the speech as almost as if you had written it yourself. This doesn't always apply, by the way, but you should be able to remember key points of everyone's speech, but there are speeches that just stand out more than others. And finally, you would want to beware of cliches or overly generic content that has been used time and time again without any form of, like, we're tying this back to uniqueness or originality of thought. So yeah, forgive the repetition, but it's very important, especially when it comes to creativity. So we're trying to avoid things like overly being dramatic, but getting your point across in a way that gets the judges interested actively in what you have to say. Then I'm going to go on to delivery. Delivery has so many things under it. It has stage management and body language and your enunciation, or how fluent the speaker is, and all of that. So the things on that delivery that we like to look at are things like voice clarity, projection, their pace, their pausing, eye contact, gestures, confidence, body language. So you want to ask yourself, can I hear and understand this speaker easily? Bearing in mind that if you're judging a tournament where you have people who do not use the same accent as you cannot lay a bias on that person as a result of that. You have to do your best to understand that person, right? The speaker should also, on their own end, be making efforts to make themselves sound clearer if they have noticed that they do not sound very clear. The next thing, are they practicing pacing and pausing? Is their pace natural? Are they going too fast? Are they going too slow? There are points in time where speakers would want to speak too fast or speak too slow just to lay emphasis on what they're trying to say. I myself have done it a number of times. So what we want to watch out for is that pacing natural, right? The level of emphasis they are placing at that particular place, using that pace, is it where it's supposed to be, right? Is it as a result of nerves or it's intended? So these are the questions we ask ourselves. We should also ask, does the speaker make eye contact? If it's physical, if it's virtual, are they engaging with the judges? Like, the speech, is it engaging enough? Are their gestures purposeful or distracting? There are people like myself who enjoy making use of hand gestures when we're talking. I'm even doing it right now, even though no one can see me, so it's a very bad habit. But yeah, the point is, are these gestures that they're making, are they distracting or are they purposeful? Are they just waving their hands around in the air, like, without any sense of direction, or are they using it to lay emphasis on certain things? These are questions we ask. And finally, does the speaker show confidence or nervousness? So people normally ask questions like, oh, if I'm nervous in my speech, what does it rank under? Delivery. It ranks under delivery because we're looking at your body language, we're looking at how you engage, we're looking at how confident you present yourself, and all of that. All of that falls under delivery. And finally, I'm going to talk about time management. This is very, very important. We don't always, most people hear time management and think, oh, I just have to stay within the lines, right? I just have to stay within the time limit. I have to make sure that I give 3 minutes and 15 seconds speech and all of that. But it goes a lot further than that, a lot deeper. than that. The first question you ask yourself here is, because time management has to do with speech length within limits, effective pacing, no rushing, no dragging. So you're asking yourself, is the speaker able to stick to the time limits, and not the time limits of 3 minutes, 15 seconds? You're timing them for 3 minutes. The 15 seconds is just grace and nothing more. A speaker who goes over 3 minutes cannot receive the full marks for time management. It is just not done. You're asking yourself, pacing also falls here. Are they pacing themselves with balance? Are they rushing? Are they dragging? If a speech goes over or under time, deduct points accordingly. The bandwidth for it would be, if it's a 3 minute speech, the speaker should have spoken for at least 2 minutes 30 seconds to be in what we consider a safe zone. Otherwise, the speaker is considered a 2 minute person. So do with that what you will. So keeping to time, the reason time management is put in criteria is because it's a part of professional discipline. It's not just for here. You're looking at it as public speaking as a life skill, and you might find yourself in a situation where you have to give a maybe TEDx speech, and you're giving it for 10 to 30 minutes, and you find yourself going over time. You've become very much indisciplined when it comes to communicating professionally. So that's why we maintain time management in tournaments. Okay, so that's about it for judging criteria. And like I already said, please make sure to ask all your questions. I'm going to answer one question now before we go on. Considering content from the perspective of a speaker, how does number of points matter? If it does, how many is expected from a speaker at least? Okay, so first things first, if this was debate, I don't think the number of points matter, right? You're just supposed to make sure you're giving good points. But this is public speaking, and half the time we're not looking at things as points. We're looking at it from the perspective of the entire speech. So we're not looking at, oh, this person laid 7 points that were very, very beautiful. Nobody cares about that. We just want to hear what you have to say. We want to make sure that your message at the end of the day is passed sufficiently across. If you're talking about business pitches, there are certain things that you have to make sure that you hit in business pitches. Like you're trying to make sure you get the name of your name, the name of your business, and that's where you can be like, okay, you number the amount of things that you have to give, right? But other than that, points don't matter. Points don't really matter. Feel free to ask any other questions. I'm going to go ahead and talk about a couple of common judging pitfalls. So the first thing, and this is very important, is bias, right? So the bias alert. Focus on the speech, not the speaker's looks, accent, or background. And I'm going to go even further to say that you focus on the speech and not just your issues with the issue that the person is talking about. For instance, if someone is advocating for LGBTQ rights, or like I like to say, LGBTQ, right? And you're someone who is a homophobe, just if you know that you cannot listen to this speech, just clash yourself, leave the room. That's the best advice I'll give you, because not only would it be an equity violation to rank someone wrongly because of your bias, but it would also cause possible disqualification of very, very serious consequences. So if someone is talking about a topic that you're not comfortable with, you don't think you're going to be able to judge this person fairly as a result of that bias, please do not judge in that room. If you have issues with someone, clash them ahead of the tournament. Please, for the love of God, clash them before the rounds officially start. If accent, background, I know that there are a number of, because of the circuits that we're in, there are a number of people who are like, oh, I can't really understand the Nigerian accent. Oh, I can't really understand the Ghanaian accent. Oh, I can't understand white people accent. It's very easy to be reverse racist. I'm not joking. So if you think that it's going to be a problem, Please just clash yourself. Clash yourself. Secondly, please do not confuse nervousness with poor delivery. It is normal for a speaker to have some nerves in their speech. It's only if it's impacting the speech as a whole and it's impacting it a lot, then you can take off points. Make sure that you're keeping an open mind. A speech may start slow at the beginning, which means maybe their introduction may not be the best, the hook, not the best. But by the time you're getting to the middle, they're building a lot of momentum and you're really feeling the speech. So please try as much as possible to keep a very open mind. Score consistently across speakers. Make sure that you're using the rubric as your anchor. So the band for this tournament is 65 to 85. So if a speech was that bad, the speech should get a 65. If the speech was that good, it should get an 85. And if it was just average, 75. So what we're looking at is for all the judges to bear in mind that if you're giving someone an 85, you have to have a very good reason, because we'll be looking out for issues where people are just trying to help their friends to rise and all of that stuff. So if you're going to give a speech an 85, you better be ready to defend the 85. Avoid scoring based on your personal taste in topics or humor. Let's say, oh, this person told a joke, a joke using dark humor, and oh, you really love dark humor. Oh, that speech that automatically means the speech was amazing. I'm going to give it a full mark for creativity. No, just don't do it. Avoid it. Or if you like listening to, personally, I love listening to speeches about feminism. I wouldn't let that affect how I score someone who came up to speak on feminism. Because at the end of the day, it's not just the speech, it's how the speech is given. Right? So let's talk about scoring, feedback practice. Make sure that you're using the full range of points to distinguish between performances. I already explained what the band looks like. The first thing you should ask yourself, this speech, was it above average, below average, slightly above average, slightly below average, way below average, and way above average? And you ask yourself these questions, you know where what your scoring is ranging from. So if it's an average speech, you should know you're looking at 75. If it's a slightly below average speech, you're looking between 70 to 75 to 74 rather. Slightly above average, you're looking at 76 to 78. If you're looking at way below average, you're starting to look at 80 and going up. And same thing goes for way below average, that's 69, going down. So with feedback, when you're giving, this is for chairs who are giving oral education, and even when you're giving personal feedback, speakers are human beings. No one likes to take criticism. I can argue this anywhere, that there's no one who is like, oh, criticize me. I am open for it every time. We tell ourselves, okay, we're open to receiving it, but not everybody handles it very well. And you can't tell who does and who doesn't. So the formula I use when I'm giving feedback is I try to first talk about what they did well. Right? Find one thing, even if that speech was that bad, find one thing that they did well, even if it's just the courage that they had to stand on the stage and give that speech. Say it. Talk about what they did well, give them one or two ways or several ways, depending, to improve, and always remember to be respectful and encouraging. I like to sandwich my feedback. So unless you're a friend of mine, if you're a friend of mine, I'll give it to you straight, and then you come and apologize to me for giving me a terrible speech respectfully. So, but other than that, I like to sandwich my feedback. I talk about what they did well, I talk about how they can improve, and then I circle back to what they did well. Just harp on it so they know that there is room for improvement, but they're on the right track. So, and this is something that I've noticed, that there are a lot of speakers who, because of how they received feedback, might decide, ah, this isn't worth it anymore, and you find them dropping out mid tournament. If a speaker is going to drop out mid tournament, let it not be your fault. That's what I like to tell judges. Let it not be your fault. Do your best and leave the rest to the speakers. So, talking about time and pressure, please try to keep your timing in check. We want our scores in quickly to keep the event flowing, the tournament flowing, but we know that deliberations can take time. So make sure that, in as much as you're watching time, you're also trying to make sure you're as accurate with your rankings and your scores as much as, like, as accurate as humanly possible. If you get stuck on one speech, please just move on to the next, come back later. Don't let one speech paralyze you. Remember that you are a guide. You're not a dictator. Your job, your duty in the tournament is to help speakers grow. So that's roughly it. And that's about it. I'm actually shocked to see I'm done in what, 30-ish minutes. So we're going to answer questions and just make some clarifications now. Please remember that judges make or break the competition. Take your role seriously, but also try as much as possible to enjoy the process. And with that, that's the end of my excessive talking. If you have questions, now is the best possible time to ask questions. Raise your hand if you want to speak. I love hearing people speak, so please raise your hand. If you can't speak, type it in the text space. I'm also very much open to answering questions. For the next 5 to 10 minutes, I'm going to mute now and give some time for people to just load up their questions. And when I unmute, I'll either be answering the questions or closing out this judging session.
Sorry, good evening.
Hi.
Sorry, I just wanted to know if this Google Meet was just for the judging training.
So there was a speakers training that started at 6 p.m., but I'm guessing you didn't see the message.
Oh, my bad. I'm so sorry.
That's absolutely fine. If you didn't see it, it's not your fault. But if you have a question, myself and Halima are here. Halima, are you still here? I see she's on the call, but I'm not sure if she's with her phone. Is she here?
Yeah, I can hear you, but
Okay, she's here. So if you have questions about speaking, if you have questions about judging, whatever your question is, ask. We're happy to answer. Sorry, did someone have a question? Did someone say something?
Hello.
Mercury, hi.
Yeah, good evening.
Good evening. How are you?
Yeah, I'm well. How you doing?
I'm good.
Yeah, so I have a question. I am like more of a speaker. I don't do a lot of judging, but like there have been situations where I've been forced to judge like rounds. And I used to have like a little bit of problem. There are going to be some rounds where like everybody's good, like everybody's so fucking good. I'm sorry, everybody's so really good. And left to me, I would have to like tweak my scores because okay, this is this is like an 81 speech, this is like an 80 speech, but then you all are just like on 80, 80, 80. Am I supposed to give it like that? Or like I don't know, I don't know if you get what I'm saying. Am I allowed to like okay, you all are on 80s, just on 80
You're
now?
allowed to draw. You're allowed to draw across board because this is the thing, right? You're not giving a how do I put it? You're not giving a ranking, right? So if there are 8 speakers in a room, it doesn't really matter who comes first or who comes eighth. What matters is what they look like on standings, right? At the end of the day, all the rounds total together. But this is the thing, you're not the only judge, right? So let's say you have them on, and this is what I prefer to do during deliberations, preferably. So what I do is, if I'm chairing a room, I tell the judges, let's talk about the ranks first, right? Let's rank everybody first down to the end. And when we're done, we ask ourselves, this speech, like I said, above average, below average, all of that. Everyone gives their score according to that. And then, and in as much as you have your own score at the beginning, right? There's such a thing as drawing average. So you have 2 or 3 judges with you in the room, and you all have a number. You total it divided by number of judges. You have your score. That's the average. And that's what you give that speaker. So in as much as it's possible to draw, I find it very rare that 10 speakers will have an 80. It's rare. It's very rare. But in such cases, that's where averages come in. That's where discussing, picking the speeches apart, especially if you're judging the finals. If you're judging finals, it's expected that everyone there is really, really good. So you ask yourself, what are the little things? Let's look at the little things, especially when you can't differentiate them apart. I've had tournaments, I've judged finals where what differentiated one speaker from another was time management. The other person went above by 3 seconds. So you break it down to go back to the basics. If it's really that deep, go back to the basics. I hope I've answered your question.
I have another though.
Go ahead.
Okay, but this is like from a speaker POV, not like a judge. I
Sure.
missed the entire speaker training.
Sure, that's fine.
Yeah, so I've been in tournaments. Let me just like this NUDCS where we were told to prepare for something like the newscasting whole thing. And then whilst I was going there, I was in my mind, I was like, oh, I've cooked. I'm going to use this as my prop. I'm going to like do all of this. This is what's going to like make me stand out. And like I was just so confident. And when I got there, just the speaker before me did like everything. I was like, I already planned, oh, this is just what's going to make me outstanding. And the person like repeated everything that was in my mind. So I did not have enough time to like cook something. I'm
Well,
not going to to cook something. So I just had to like keep doing what I wanted to do. But then when the judge gave the OH, was like, oh, this person already did all of this. Like you just copied that. I was like, okay, I did not copy after. I don't know if I'm ranting, I'm complaining. What do you think does in such instances?
okay. So this is where the third principle is applied. I would say that you ran with, did you run with the first thing that came to your mind? Did you run with, since is it a newscasting scenario, I'm going to maybe play some news soundtrack and then maybe put a bit of breaking news that is breaking and all of that? Does that sound about right?
Well, not that.
Okay. But the thing is this, right?
Okay, let me just say like what I wanted to do, like, a little bit of that, and like I wanted to like whilst I was giving the speech, I was gonna like take a pause and like we should look at the TV, like the way they do it in news, like look at the TV to see maybe like another speaker or just watch a clip from the TV. I don't know if it's
Oh,
making sense. So that break, so I was like, okay, this is like really good, and I really thought hard about it. And the person just came to do the exact same thing. So it was like I just copied.
so again, that's where the third principle is applied. So what you want to ask yourself in speeches, I don't know if Halima will want to weigh in on this, but when I'm done, I'll just call her out. So when you get a speech type, newscasting, for instance, you ask yourself, what are the things that generally happen when it comes to these speeches, right? What are all the possible things that somebody could use to be creative? Have that in mind and then trash it all. don't do it. Look for something else. There is always something else that no one else has done. We first debuted newscasting scenarios at Crudy, which was pre-ANUDC 2025. And one thing that ran
Then
across
when they see how you are also
Sorry?
building your own life. For
Halima,
me, oh, that's just me.
Halima,
Oh, sorry.
you were muted. I didn't know you were saying something, but
Oh
it's fine.
yeah, sorry.
Yeah, it's okay. Let me just round up and then you just weigh in. So, one thing, I was in the cafeteria before we started the round, and there was someone sitting on my table, and she was playing music, and she turned to me and she was like, "Oh, you're CA, right? Can I play music at this?" I was like, "Sure," but I was laughing because I already knew what was going to happen. By the time we got into the room, I deliberately didn't judge that around because I had so many people asking me questions and I didn't want to be biased by the time I got into a room. So we had everybody in a particular room played music for that round. Everybody, every last person. So it's something that runs across board. When you hear newscasting, you think music, you think, oh, let's cut to this person. That's not what makes your speech creative. There are other ways to approach creativity. Look at the topic itself. How can you make that particular topic creative? Forget about how newscasters make themselves sound better and all of that. How can you make that topic in and of itself creative? What fresh perspective can you bring to the topic? If you can't bring a fresh perspective to the scenario, which is newscasting, you can always bring a fresh perspective to the topic. So let it be your speech that stands out and not what you do around the speech that stands out. At the end of the day, it's the message you're passing, right? So it's something that I think that you should look at. And if you're not privileged to go first in situations like this, chances are everybody's going to think, oh, this person was copying this person and this person was copying that person. It's now up to you to make your speech stand apart with that unique thing that is you, Mercury, as you're speaking. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. Halimat, do you want to weigh in?
What did you say?
I was asking if you wanted to weigh in on his question.
Oh, sorry, I did not get the question.
Okay, then that's fine. Okay, does anyone else have a question or something they'd like to say? Okay,
If it's still possible, can I get just like maybe a summary of the question?
Oh, he was asking about being accused of copying someone else's speech when it comes to newscasting scenarios, bringing his own fresh perspective, and it turns out that someone else had the exact same idea and ran with it before he did and stuff. And he just needed some clarity on what he could do to avoid it happening next time.
Okay. First thing I would say is that it happens, and what I've learned is that because we are all humans, and if we most likely maybe stay within the same space or have almost the same kind of lifestyle, what's funny is that we think the same way. So in the best way to put it is that what you are thinking, 1 million people are also thinking about it, and it's true biologically too. So you would find Nigerians thinking the same way. You would find people living in a certain region thinking the same way. So the first thing I would say is, if you find yourself in that scenario, that is where your ability as a public speaker starts becoming tested. It has happened to me before. And I was like, I thought this was extremely unique. And I think that was the time when I intentionally went to research logical thinking, because normally I know biologically that, okay, I think this way, someone else might be able to think that, but it was just very surprising because I had planned that when a scenario speech comes up and it is relating to this topic, I am going to talk about it this way. So it was more like I was prepared for a scenario speech that was coming in from two, but someone else too did exactly the same thing just right before me. So when I say your public speaking ability has to be tested, is that's when you now have to think about, you can preserve your message, right? When I say preserve your message, you know the core idea you want to pass across, but it means that you now have to change your delivery totally. That's the first thing. If you plan on singing a song before you present your news and someone else had done it, you might want to scrape that song and maybe replace it with a funny intro. It's, you also can try thinking about your immediate environment and see how it can change the uniqueness of your speech. So the first thing is, number one, that person did not run into your head to steal your idea. Might not be that your village people after you. It happens. What becomes tested at that point in time, because it might still happen again, is to stretch your creative thinking ability. So you want to look at your immediate environment and you want to draw out something out of it to change your style a bit and to also tweak your delivery. I hope that helps.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, so seeing that no one else has any other questions, I think we can wrap it up here. It was my absolute pleasure to speak to you this evening. I had so much fun. I always have fun when you guys give me a platform and tell me talk. But yeah, uh, Halima and I will be available afterwards. So in case maybe you didn't want to ask your question here or on the call, you can always meet us in our DMs and send us a message. We'll be happy to answer every question except what the tasks for LDO are. Be at LDO so you can find out. So that's roughly about it. Take care, everyone. Have a lovely evening. Fee, I'm handing back over to you.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much. It was really lovely having you here. Um, so just like we said, it's going to be, this session was recorded, both the speakers as well as the judges training, and it's going to be uploaded on the YouTube page. So just stay tuned and we'll send the updates for the link to the YouTube page. Yeah. Have a lovely evening, everybody, and see you at LDO next week. Oh, sorry, it's this week. Bye, guys.